Recently, I've been reading a new manga known as Sailor Moon, with the main protagonist being so strong, I believe can beat the likes of the big three, and even some of our favorite verses such as Hunter x Hunter, Yu Yu Hakusho, and Jujutsu Kaisen. But with every strong character we encounter and that grows in popularity, we're oftentimes, and dare I say, inevitably faced with the question of, can she be Goku though? So, without further ado, let's see if Sailor Moon can be Goku. First and foremost, I think I should go over which types of scalings and metas I'll be using for Goku, as people also try and wank Goku instead of using his more consistent and grounded scaling, using things like the Koyama statements, which I personally won't be using. Koyama has stated on numerous occasions that his statements on the series are more so just personal feelings and opinions, and have no real bearing on where or how the verse is scaled, and has no real significance to the story whatsoever. So I think with that clarification, we can now actually go ahead and scale Goku and see how strong he truly is, at least consistently. For those who are new to the Dragon Ball franchise or are just generally unfamiliar with the main story of Dragon Ball, Goku is the main protagonist who comes from an alien race known as the Saiyans. During Dragon Ball Z, we get to see Goku's power progression with things such as the Kaioken and the Super Saiyan forms, allowing him to beat up many powerful antagonists such as Cell, who was stated to have enough power to destroy a solar system while not even at full power, and Boo, who is by far the strongest antagonist in the Canon Z storyline, who was shown to destroy a galaxy and was even stated to be able to obliterate the universe. Many years later in the Dragon Ball Super timeline, Goku would encounter the god of destruction known as Beerus and would fight him for the fate of their planet. In their battle, as many of you all know, Goku would clash with Beerus, and it was so powerful that it was stated by the Kais to be able to destroy the Universe 7 macrocosm. The reason this is impressive is because the Universe 7 macrocosm is home to many infinitely sized constructs such as the World of the Living, Hell, the Kaioshin realm, and many more, and it's also stated to have innumerable stars within it. By virtue of this, Goku would be around infinitely 4D low multiversal within the first arc of Battle of Gods alone. People oftentimes try and argue Goku is 5th dimensional due to a statement from the Tenkaichi Budokai that claims that heaven is on a higher dimensional plane of existence in comparison to the rest of the universe. However, this is clearly in reference to where the afterlife is as a realm geographically, which is also the reason why Gohan is shocked whenever King Kai speaks to him, due to the fact that he doesn't know where he is, and not because he's in a completely different dimensional plane of existence like most people try to argue. After Goku and Beerus almost destroyed the entire macrocosm, Goku is then able to absorb the initial God Ki he used to almost obliterate the macrocosm into his base form and get thousands to potentially millions of times stronger in his base form alone. Many chapters after that, Goku would face off against a character known as Jiren. Jiren, on many occasions, is stated to have power that transcends the gods of destruction, which would include the aforementioned Beerus, at least going by the anime's continuity. This would mean that Jiren inherently scales above not only Beerus, but any prior version of Goku, including the form of Goku that was able to clash with Beerus and blow up the entirety of the Universe 7 macrocosm, which again had at least 2 infinitely sized 4th dimensional realms. Due to this, Jiren would basically smack up every version of Goku up until his mastered Ultra Instinct form that was actually weakened due to the numerous battles Goku had prior against Jiren, Toppo, Kefla, and many more. Meaning, the Goku we see fight Jiren isn't even his hypothetical peak due to how exhausted he is during that fight. Goku also has some sort of infinite power, as Goku is able to shake the entire world of Void, which is stated to be infinite in size. People also try to argue that Goku is also some universal god due to it being stated to have no time or space. However, we know this isn't true because there's a blatant time limit to the Tournament of Power. So either A, the World of Void had no time prior to the tournament, or B, it truly did always have time, and the statement would simply contradict itself due to later statements that are shown. There's also many Dragon Ball misconceptions, such as Jiren transcending time, and this is solely in relation to its time skip and or time stop that Jiren is able to flex his power out of due to the mechanics of the verse, which we also won't grant to Goku in this versus battle, as obviously Sailor Moon isn't a Dragon Ball character, and that's overall just a boring solution to versus battle powers. So, Jiren and by extension Goku are bound by time, and this is shown countless times, regardless of any of the edgy afterlife arguments that blatantly contradict themselves many fans of the series try to use. Speaking of these afterlife arguments, things like it has no concept of time and Goku scaling to it is a blatant lie. In the majority of the translations that I came across, it never says it has no concepts of time or space, but rather Goku states that it has a different temporal flow, or that time doesn't really mean much. Even if we go under the axiom and or presupposition that the afterlife has no time, Goku states verbatim that time doesn't affect him in the living world, which is why he can't use Super Saiyan 3, meaning Goku being unaffected by time, which again isn't true, would solely be due to his type of existence as a ghost or spirit, and not because he is transcendent of the concepts of time and space. Now that we've gotten those misconceptions and wank outliers out the way, we can now go over Goku's main set of abilities and where he consistently scales in terms of speed. Goku's main set of abilities are things like the Super Saiyan transformations, Kaiokens, and things like the Mafuba Jar of Sealing, which, if I'm being honest, won't be that useful to Goku in this specific versus battle, as of course I'll get into that when I go over how strong Sailor Moon is. But the main crutch of my scaling of Goku's abilities has to do with his Mastered Ultra Instinct form, specifically the one that we see in the manga, as that version of MUI is implied to be more of a refined version in comparison to the one that we see in the Tournament of Power in Goku's fight against Jiren. However, that doesn't necessarily matter, as in the manga, Beerus is somehow still top dog and a benchmark to where Goku and the rest of the gang should be by the time the series ends, but in the anime has been long since surpassed since the introduction of Jiren. Mastered Ultra Instinct is defined as autonomous self-movement that allows Goku to have some sort of sixth sense precognition using his God Ki and formulate almost perfect counterattacks and combos to subdue his opponents. Goku, if he truly wants, could combine Ultra Instinct, not to be confused with Master Ultra Instinct, with another technique such as the Kaioken or Super Saiyan Blue, and tap into that autonomous movement aspect of Ultra Instinct in conjunction with the power of Super Saiyan Blue, since of course that version isn't a form. However, Mastered Ultra Instinct would be considered a technique and a transformation, since he blatantly gets stronger and they use the silver hair as an indication of that. Also, for those who still disagree with Goku being this strong, we are blatantly told in the Broly movie that Gogeta and Broly were able to nuke dimensions and that Broly was potentially above Beerus, while Jiren was stated to blatantly surpass him, and Goku would beat up Jiren after those statements were made. When it comes to speed, I won't waste anyone's time with the repetitive massively faster than light arguments for Dragon Ball, as I personally think faster than light is just a clear and generally accepted baseline for how fast these characters are and generally should be. However, Goku and the rest of the high tiers, in my opinion, kind of blatantly scale to those infinite speeds, with Granola in the manga mistaking Goku's base speed for instant transmission, and we have things like Goku in the Z movies blatantly scaling to it as well. As I said prior, Goku was able to shake the world of void that is infinite in size, and it's been emphasized many times that ki is relative to your physical stats, so Goku by virtue of that should have infinite ki to amp his speed infinitely as well. In conclusion, characters like Demon King Piccolo are planetary with a bit of wank. Characters like Frieza are able to destroy Namek and planet Sadala, which is a planet the Saiyans inhabit, that are of a greater magnitude in terms of size and power than things like Earth. Goku then gets 50 times stronger than Frieza's strongest form and is able to one-shot him. Cell, while not even at full power, is able to blow away the entire solar system, and a Team Gohan with Super Saiyan 2, who is millions of times weaker than this current Goku, is able to beat his ass. Boo is then introduced into the series and is just shown to be the strongest adversary they've ever faced off against in the entirety of the series, and is shown to be able to obliterate a galaxy, and is even implied to be able to destroy the universe, at least over time. We then skip over to Dragon Ball Super, and Goku is then able to clash with the God of Destruction Beerus and almost destroy the entirety of the universe of Macrocosm many times over. This macrocosm is home to numerous infinitely sized space-time continuums. Goku then absorbs the power he used to perform this feat into his base form, and gets millions of times stronger in his Mastered Ultra Instinct form, and fights a character that not only surpasses just Beerus, but the entire hierarchy of the Gods of Destruction themselves. Gogeta is then able to fight against a character who can maybe beat Beerus, and their battle is able to break apart the barrier of higher dimensions, and Goku would scale above this. Goku then prior to this was able to shake an infinite space that he would need infinite amounts of reserves of ki for. Ki, like I said, is relative to your speed. Granola in the manga mistakes Goku's raw speed for instant transmission, something that is blatantly stated to be an instantaneous form of movement. In conclusion, Goku is infinitely fourth dimensional with multiversal levels of power and infinite speed. And this is who Sailor Moon has to fight against. So the question now is, can Sailor Moon beat Goku? Before we start off, I want to emphasize that I will only be using her AP and DC scaling from the first arc of the series, which is about 14 chapters long, to really emphasize her power. Since, of course, like I said, Sailor Moon as a series is very unappreciated and, dare I say, overlooked and underrated, not only in terms of popularity, but power. Sailor Moon, also known as Usagi Tsukino's main power source, comes from something called the mythical silver crystal, which I'll get into. However, even before that, she's directly compared to it once she attains her mystical wand. The mythical silver crystal is one of the most powerful sources of power in the entire verse, and is stated on numerous occasions to have infinite and immeasurable power. And Sailor Moon is stated to rival this whilst not even fully awakened as a guardian, which is stated by a character named Battaglia. Battaglia is the main antagonist of the first arc of Sailor Moon, and has seen the initial full power of the mythical silver crystal and directly compares it to a pre-awakened Sailor Moon who just obtained her wand. Keep in mind, this is a Sailor Moon who merely uses her wand in order to bring everyone who is going to die back to life, whilst not even knowing how to properly use it. Outputting so much energy, Battaglia thought that she had the mythical crystal in her possession and was using its power, and this was all the way back in chapter 7 of the manga. We then later find out that the ontological essence of who Sailor Moon is the mythical silver crystal in of itself, with it being stated that a single tear droplet crystallized itself into the mythical silver crystal, meaning she alone has the power to not only govern the universe, but she holds universal amounts of power casually. During their fight against a character known as Beryl, Ami, who's also Sailor Mercury, created a super-dimensional space for them to fight in. A super-dimensional space, in many definitions, refers to a fourth-dimensional higher space, or something that is beyond the scope of dimensions, and uses the kanji known as Chojigen, which is directly translated as either space-time or a higher dimensional construct or space. This kanji is seen many times in series like Naruto with Kaguya space-times, Bleach with the realms, Dragon Ball, and many other verses. With this in mind, Sailor Mercury and all of the other sailors would be fourth dimensional, and Sailor Moon scales infinitely above the aforementioned sailors by many times, and this is shown in their battle against Battaglia, which I'll get into. Many skeptics of this feat will claim that Mercury claims that she's going to make a barrier or shield. However, Beryl supports the aforementioned claim that it's a space, saying, in quote, "We can fight wherever," with the term wherever referring to a place rather than a thing. As I said, Sailor Moon casually scales above the combined power of the four guardians. One of the four guardians, known as Sailor Venus, is able to use the sword of Tuxedo Man, or Memoru, that is able to, end quote, banish people from all of existence, and it's stated verbatim that Moon is the only person who can use this weapon at its fullest capabilities, breaking the seal that is placed upon it. And this is all without the power of the initial Moon Crystal, and not even the evolved one that we see later. After banishing Tuxedo Man, who was being possessed by Battaglia, Battaglia then absorbs both Sailor Moon and Tuxedo Man while they were encased within the stone itself, and is then amped so much to the point where her mere presence is able to distort both space and time. For reference, characters like Might Guy had to use the peak of their power to solely warp space, and this is the level of power a lot of Bleach fans like to say Ichigo and Aizen are fourth dimensional using things like the Kido Hitsugi, and Battaglia is able to do this casually. Battaglia would then fight the four guardians, which consists of Venus, Mercury, Mars, and Jupiter, and Battaglia is able to absorb and then one-shot every single one of them, claiming that all power, which would be on the universal scale based on how the crystal works, only amps her. Keep in mind, guardians such as Ray or Sailor Mars is stated to be able to warp dimensions by a character known as Luna, who is one of the smartest characters within the verse, and is also able to see into the future and sense incoming attacks and evil, but wasn't able to beat Metalia, who couldn't even use the full power of the base silver crystal, who Sailor Moon would inherently scale above, because only she alone can use its powers to the fullest, and she is the crystal itself. Many chapters after that, Sailor Moon would then wake up inside Metalia, and due to her intense emotions, she would evolve the stone into its second evolution, and using its powers would, quote, banish Metalia out of all of existence. This is impressive because Metalia is stated to have no physical form and to be the incarnate and embodiment of evil, making her conceptual. And Sailor Moon is able to destroy the concept of evil in its purest form, in the form of Metalia, from all of existence and reality, which she governs over. It's actually verbatim stated that the crystal can do anything Sailor Moon Heart's desires, which is a form of subjective reality manipulation. And this is all without using the power of the evolved mythical crystal, as well as her princess and queen memories using her past lives, which she has access to. That Metalia says that the power of the initial crystal, which she couldn't even harness the entire power of, in her own words, while she was possessing Tuxedo Man, is nothing but a lump compared to the evolved crystal Sailor Moon used to banish her from all of existence, and that's without her princess and queen past life amps on some Avatar The Last Airbender type shit. After her battle against Metalia, she is then able to use the power of her past lives, specifically her in the 30th century, and is then able to reverse the global effects of Metalia's power using the base crystal. And all of these feats would amount to around infinitely fifth dimensional complex multiversal due to her scaling infinitely above people like Sailor Mercury, who can create fourth dimensional constructs that the base crystal that she created with a literal teardrop scales infinitely above. That Metalia then absorbs, and then Crystal Moon gets amped by many times to the point where Metalia says that it's much greater than the base silver crystal, and then gets amped again, and then one-shots Metalia out of all of existence, blatantly displaying infinitely fifth dimensional levels of power. And this is all within the first 14 chapters of the entire story. Also, the existence erasure Sailor Moon is able to harness is above things like the Hakai, which Goku can't even use to its fullest, as Beerus, someone who should be able to use the Hakai to its best extent we've currently seen, states that he can't even kill immortals. However, Sailor Moon can literally banish the concepts and embodiments of things like evil with a simple swing of her wand. When it comes to her speed, Sailor Moon should have the bare minimum of infinite speeds, with characters like the Guardians being able to combine their powers and travel from the Earth to the Moon in mere seconds, and Sailor Moon scales infinitely above them in terms of power. And of course, her moon power is relative to all of her stats like Ki would be in Dragon Ball. If you really just want to whip it out and leave everything on the table, Sailor Moon in the second arc scales above a character known as Sailor Pluto, who's able to stop time, and she's able to freely move while in base form with her powers depleted. And even after this, she's able to move in a place and or void that is stated to have no concept of distance or direction and resists being erased from all of time, including the past, present, and future. As in the Sailor Moon universe, no two people can exist in the same point in time. And this isn't even the craziest thing, as her power in the second arc is directly stated to transcend both space and time, casually. But of course, we're only using the first 14 chapters, so Sailor Moon is only infinite speed under that prerequisite. However, if you all are interested in a full-fledged breakdown of Sailor Moon's power, get this video to 1,000 likes, and I'll gladly drop the full analysis with every feat from every arc of the series. Also, I meant to put a hack section into the video with different hacks and how Sailor Moon would be able to combat against things such as Goku's Ultra Instinct. However, in my opinion, it wouldn't really matter, as like I said, a character known as Ray also has a sixth sense of abilities and is able to see the future, and Sailor Moon again scales infinitely above her due to the silver crystal. And this isn't even Sailor Moon's strongest form, such as her Neo Queen Serenity, or even her Sailor Cosmos form. In conclusion, Sailor Moon in the first 7 chapters of the series is directly compared to the Infinity Gauntlet of the series, the Mythical Silver Crystal. Many chapters after that, the main antagonist of the series, known as Metalia, is then able to absorb both the Mythical Silver Crystal, Sailor Moon, and Tuxedo Man, and become so powerful, her mere presence distorts all of space and time. She's then able to neg and absorb 4th dimensional power from the Guardians, and like I said, absorb their power as well. Sailor Moon then becomes so emotional that she is able to evolve the Mythical Silver Crystal to the point where the initial one Metalia was using to perform all of these feats I just mentioned was stated to be a lump in comparison. Using this power, Sailor Moon is then able to one-shot and obliterate the concept of evil from all existence using the power of her past lives. The Guardians, in conjunction with each other, are able to use their power to travel from the Earth to the Moon and back in mere seconds. And Sailor Moon scales infinitely above that due to the crystal's power. In the second arc of the series, she's able to move freely in a void that has no time and no concept of distance or direction. So with all that being said, can Sailor Moon beat Goku though? And the answer is a blatant yes. With Sailor Moon running up to Goku and banishing him from all of existence casually, even beyond things like the afterlife and even his concept, and just like that, Sailor Moon would go back to Tokyo afterwards and have a wonderful rest of her day. Again, all these feats of Sailor Moon are from the first arc of the series, which is only 14 chapters long. And like I said, these aren't even her most powerful versions, like Neo Queen Serenity from the 30th century, or her Sailor Cosmos form, or even the form we see at the end of the series. However, with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please be sure to leave a like and subscription, as it would be truly a lot. Like I said, trust me, writing a Goku vs. Sailor Moon script takes a whole lot of time, and the only way things like this are possible is if you guys show your support. So like I said, it would be greatly appreciated. Once again, please be sure to have a wonderful rest of your day or night. Make sure to be safe, and till next time.